Welcome back to the video module on economic course. We were in types of inflation and we had covered how many types of inflation? Nine types of inflation we had covered. So what were they? Demand pull and cost push in the concept of inflation. Deflation, disinflation, reflation, structural inflation, skewflation, stagflation, hyperinflation. So next up is Phillips curve. So Phillips curve is like an extended concept of stagflation itself. So try to understand that in the whole concept, the unemployment rate, when I say unemployment rate, this comes to impose a very crucial challenge to the economies when they set out on fight to control inflation. Remember that the unemployment rate. So this is not inverse to inflation and this is only true in short term. This is what Phillips curve says. This is the first point in Phillips curve, that it says that this inverse relation between inflation and unemployment is only short-lived or only short term. So that is what Phillips curve meant when it says it is short term. And in the long run, or when governments take measures to control inflation, that is when this dynamics will be coming into play. So what will happen in Phillips curve is, we have unemployment rate on x-axis and inflation rate on y-axis in the Phillips curve. So essentially when we say that this inverse relation holds true for short term, so how it is depicted is, if there are maths or engineering students, they can correlate. So this is inverse relation curve basic. So what happens is, essentially when the unemployment rate is low, call it UA, at point A here on the curve, the unemployment is UA, inflation rate is IA. So what can we decipher? When the unemployment rate is low, inflation rate is high. And when unemployment rate is high, at point B, when unemployment rate is high, inflation will be low. This is what this curve means, when that inverse relation holds true for a short run or only short term. And what happens in the long run is, when the governments try to decrease the unemployment rate, what does it mean? They will try to create additional employment in the economy. So when we study equilibrium state, what was the limitation to it? The economy is already working at its full potential. So beyond that, governments, when they try to manipulate the unemployment rate, when they try to reduce the unemployment rate, what will happen is that the curve will be pushed. Yes, the curve will be pushed ahead. In the long run, it will be, when you extrapolate it to, this is short run. This is when it goes to the long run, what happens is that this is imaginary. It should have been like this. But how it will be in the original is, it will go on stabilize at a higher inflation rate. Means some say IC, this point is C, this is IC and this is UB, this is IA. So when you try to artificially reduce the unemployment rate, what it will do is, the inflation, it should have been IB, means lesser here, but this will generate, and on this curve, on this point C, the inflation will be IC. So is IB greater than or IC or not? IC greater than IB. but unemployment rate is the same. It is the same unemployment rate, means it will come back to the same unemployment rate which is at full potential. What is it called? Natural rate of unemployment. When the economy is working at its full potential, as we have seen in equilibrium state concept, the unemployment rate which is existing at that equilibrium state is natural rate of unemployment. That is the natural rate. When governments try to alter this natural rate of unemployment, means when they try to artificially reduce it, inflation, if it would have normally been UB, it would have been IB. But because governments intervene, what means they create additional inflation. That is what happens. How does it happen? As we have seen, additional capital will create additional jobs, additional salaries, additional disposable income, additional aggregate demand, additional inflation. So that is how inflation kicks up. So when they try to reduce that inflation, this unemployment rate will again increase. It will not reduce. What they are trying to do, when they try to reduce it, what it will happen is it will still go here, but inflation will not be here IB, but inflation will be here IC. This point, this rate or this curve, as we are seeing here, this constant curve is called NAIRU, NAIRU, non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. So what happens is the unemployment will not change, but inflation which should have been IB, when unemployment is UB, will be IC, means the inflation will increase. So beyond this, they cannot break this away and inflation will spiral. It will increase. It will increase enormously. So what governments will have to do is they will have to limit themselves to NAIRU. So NAIRU is that minimum rate of So let us see. What is natural rate of unemployment? It is the unemployment rate that occurs at full employment when the full economy is producing at its potential output. As we have seen in the equilibrium concept, that full potential, that unemployment rate is natural rate of unemployment. Then what is NAIRU? NAIRU is non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. How do you define NAIRU? I'll say NAIRU is the lowest unemployment rate that an economy can sustain without an upward pressure on inflation rate. So if they try to reduce it beyond this, it will go here and it will touch this point. Otherwise, it will be somewhere here only. So this is the limitation beyond which you cannot do, or beyond which you cannot reduce the unemployment rate. It is the lowest unemployment rate that an economy can sustain without having additional pressures on the inflation. So this is Phillips curve. So that NAIRU is the limitation. Let us look into the concept of NAIRU and how do you define it. So if there is a question on Phillips curve, it's on NAIRU only. Non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment. This is the abbreviation of NAIRU. But how do you define it? It is the lowest employment rate that an economy can sustain. That is, this is the lowest. If they try to go beyond this, the inflation will, if they try to come like this is lesser, this is more. So the concept here is the lowest unemployment rate that economy can sustain, beyond which it cannot sustain without having inflationary pressures, means it cannot come this side. If it comes this side, this will go even higher. So this is the limitation. That itself is NAIRU. So it is the lowest unemployment rate. So NAIRU is basically what? it is an unemployment rate. Okay, this you remember. NAIRU is not inflation rate. NAIRU is unemployment rate. Which unemployment rate? The lowest unemployment rate that an economy can sustain without having additional pressures on the inflation. Means without having this pressure on the inflation, this is the limitation. So only on this curve you can now have this. If it tries to come beyond, if you try to reduce it beyond that employment rate, it will lead to even higher and higher inflations. It will reach here, it will reach here. So it should have been here, but if they try to reduce it, it will go here. So this is even higher. You can call it D. So what will happen? It will go and stabilize here only, because that is the lowest unemployment rate that an economy can sustain. That is NAIRU. This is Phillips curve concept. Hope I am clear with this concept. If there are any doubts regarding in this concept, please try to note them down and have with us a discussion on this during the interactive sessions and the doubt clearing sessions. Make sure that you clear the doubts when you read the concept. You complete it then and there. Okay, we hope to make it more interactive as possible while we conduct our interactive sessions and doubt clearing sessions. So try to note down these kind of concepts and try to have more insights from any standard books, and if you have doubts we can discuss them during our doubt clearing sessions. So this is the most important thing in one of the inflation chapters. This is NAIRU, so that unemployment rate and everything. So this is Phillips curve concept. Next up we will be looking into the measurement of inflation. Now inflation is there, yes, well it is there, and we had looked into the limitations and how economists try to handle the dynamic activity of inflation through supply and demand and everything. So we'll have to measure this now. When this phenomena is occurring in the economy, we'll have to measure it. So what are the ways of measuring it is through indices. So what are indices basically? Index is something that works towards a particular segment, particular sector, particular aspect, and it collects it and converts into an index. Index is a reference. So that is what an indices means. So we'll look into what are the indices and how do they work or how do they collect. There are two kinds of indices or two measurements of inflation, including one third one, that is GDP deflator. We will be covering this also. This is like third method, but as a concept of inflation, this one. So this is the extrapolation of same to the whole economy. So how we will see when we look into this concept. So these are the three ways of measuring inflation. First one is wholesale price index. It is called WPI. So wholesale price index is one method of measuring inflation. So what does it measure? It measures the wholesale prices. So what are wholesale prices? It is the prices at the factory gate or when the products are leaving the factory, godowns or whatever the place. Means it will capture the prices, means it is essentially capturing the costs of production. So based on the cost of production only, the price is fixed at factory gate. So it is capturing that cost of production. It is called wholesale prices. Cost of production plus maybe there may be little margin. So it is not technically called cost of production but wholesale prices. But it is the price at factory gate and it essentially contains cost of production. So how does it actually measure is this way. There will be a basket. In this basket there will be so many goods: food, fuel, energy, medical, essential, all kinds of goods that are generally very important in the economy and based on which the fluctuation of prices or price destabilization comes. So those kinds of goods, how many goods? Around 600-700 items are now in WPI basket. So it essentially includes food items, and what it essentially does not include is services. WPI does not capture services. This is very important. WPI only has goods in its basket. So what this basket does is, they'll take this basket price for base year and they will equate it to 100. Then in subsequent months, subsequent years, or for whatever period of time, this price of the same basket is taken again. So if it turns out to be like 114 after 1 year, it means inflation is 14%, or inflation is rising at 14% WPI. So this is how WPI is calculated. So regularly it is calculated, and it is over a period of time that it will increase to certain point, and this will be the base year. So this is what an index means. Index is something that contains a group of things, and it will convert it into something like a measurable value, 100 or 1, 0 or 1 or 100. So base year they will take as 100, and further whatever the increase is there, it is compared against this 100, so that we will directly get the percentage increase. So that is what an index is, and this is the wholesale price index. So it essentially covers only goods and not services. Next, how frequently does WPI released? WPI is released generally weekly. Further, it was modified to release monthly. So who releases the WPI? Who is the organization that is responsible to release the wholesale price index in India? It is Office of Economic Advisor, DAPP, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Ministry of Commerce. So Office of Economic Advisor. Ministry of Commerce, DAPP, is the one that releases WPI, and currently it releases on monthly basis. So how many items are there currently, and what is the base year currently? What is this base year for which the 100 is? Current base year is 2011-12. This is important. And how many items are there currently? Let us write all of these one by one so that they are not clumsy. So first, wholesale prices. Only goods, not services. Monthly, by Office of Economic Advisor, DAPP, Ministry of Commerce. Next point is base year. Current base year is 2011 and 12, and number of items currently is 697 items. And the share of weightage is manufactured products is 64.23%. Next, primary articles. Primary articles is 22.62%, and last is fuel and power. 13.15% is the weightage of fuel and power. It means in the wholesale price index basket, number of manufactured products is 64.23, and number of primary articles means raw materials or food, agricultural produce, 22.62%. It doesn't mean food directly. We will see into how much percentage food consists. Next, fuel and power. Fuel and power related. So even this cost, it comprises 13.15%. It is regularly monitored because energy is what runs a nation or an economy. So these needs will always be rising. So this will be monitored regularly. So this is a snapshot of WPI. Next, wholesale prices means it doesn't count indirect taxes. So this is essentially what CPA covers. So we will be moving into CPA concept. So now I have written this. That is, WPA doesn't count indirect taxes. It is essentially capturing the prices at factory gate. It doesn't include indirect taxes. Next, a service sector, a separate service sector index is basically proposed, but it has not come into existence. Next, what is the weightage of food group is around 25%. 25% is the weightage of food and food articles. Okay. This is very important fact, and there is a little concept after we discuss CPA that we will come back to this again. WPA food index is separately being produced since 2017, I guess. Yeah, it was launched in 2017. Only food articles were taken, but it is not the whole, or it is not total picture. It is WPA, the wholesale price index, that gives the snapshot of supply on the from the supply side. If there are any increases in the prices, they will be captured in WPA first. Later they will translate into the CPA. How, we will see. Consumer price index. So the same products with the time lag from the factory gate, they will be transported to various places and they will reach market. So when you capture those retail prices in the market, so what does this include? Indirect taxes. It includes the indirect taxes. This is the main important thing, and it covers both goods and services. CPI basket has totally both goods and services in its basket. CPI captures the both, not just goods. It includes services also. Services sector basket is also included in, it means articles are also included in the CPI basket. The measuring concept is same like WPI, but in the same basket they will have services also. That is CPI. Next, what is the next important thing? It is most widely used. It is most widely used index all over the world. It is used by greater than 150 countries. WPI is closest to the producer's price index in the international market. Like in the world over, WPI is equal, it is to producer's price index. It means how much is the cost that is for producers. CPI is most widely used index in the world over countries for measuring inflation in their respective economies. And it is a barometer of inflation. It is a barometer of inflation. Why is not WPI barometer of inflation? WPI is also in barometer of inflation from the producer sides, but in the markets, CPI is the barometer because it includes indirect taxes and it also covers services. WPI essentially leaves all the services out of its ambit. That is why it cannot be barometer of inflation in the first place. Then CPI covers services and also indirect taxes. Rates actually fluctuate in the market because demand is there in the market, not at the factory gate. So CPI is the essential index that gives a clear picture of how inflation is going in the whole economy or in the total sectors, both goods and services. So the formula for calculating this is called Lassippe's index. Okay, what is Lassippe's index? We will see here. Lassippe's index is that the total prices of a fixed basket of goods and services in the current period divided by the total prices of the same fixed basket, the same basket of both goods and services in base year. This is Lassipier's index. This is a formula to use to calculate CPI. What does it say? There is a basket, as I have told you earlier, there is this basket, there are items in it. The total prices of this fixed basket means this fixed basket will have a regular content of like 1 kg, 2 kg or that quantity of goods in its basket. The prices of such quantity and such goods and services, both goods and services, for the current period means for this month, for this week will be calculated against the same basket of prices in the base year. That is, that base year will be treated as 100 and this will essentially emerge out as a percentage increase over this. So this is the formula used to calculate CPI. So if this concept or the same formula is extrapolated to total economy, say suppose in this here, in the same one, what I'll be doing here is total prices of this fixed basket I'll remove and I'll put all total final goods and services. Total, all means total prices of all final goods and services in the current period in an economy. Okay, divided by the total prices of the same, means the same final goods and services in the base year. If I take these two, it is nothing but the numerator is nominal GDP, denominator is real GDP, and then what does this become? GDP deflator. It is GDP deflator. That is the third measure of inflation. Means we will take the whole final goods and services that were produced in the economy in a specified time, that is 1 year for current period, then for base year. So that is nominal GDP, this is real GDP, and this is GDP deflator. It is the same concept when you extrapolate it beyond a fixed basket of goods and you cover the total final goods and services in an economy. It will give how much the prices have really inflated over the years. So I'll tell you this GDP deflator now. I had introduced it. So what does GDP deflator essentially mean? Means, say suppose base year, I have some base year and the quantity produced in the base year is QA, the prices of the goods and the time is PA. It means all the aggregate, that is P1 plus P2 plus such kind of aggregate that we are deflator. So in the base year, the quantity of goods produced is QA, the prices of all those goods is PA. The product, the GDP at that time is QA into PA. So for the current period, for now, I'll take the quantity as QB and the prices as PB. Now the current period GDP is what? QB into PB. But what is deflator is simply saying it is the total final, what is this? This total final goods and services on the numerator and denominator are the same. It is QB. Means QB into PA divided by QB into PB divided by QB into PA. This is the current period. It is nothing but today's GDP. This one is this quantity of goods and services. It is the same fixed basket. It is the, if you don't write the same, this definition or this concept will not be over, because the quantity in the denominator is the current period's quantity, but the prices are the base years. Now it will give for the same quantity how much prices have risen actually. Means quantity, if you take this one, it will be dense GDP. The quantity if you take, it will be the dense GDP. But it will take the quantity for now and the prices for then. It will give how much the prices have inflated. That is nothing but GDP deflator. It is a third measure of inflation and it is one of the most comprehensive measure of inflation, but it is not most widely used like WPI and CPI. Why? Because by the time we arrive at GDP deflator, the inflation and that scene would have already been over. It is not something that you keep doing all every day, or you can't keep doing every month. It is something that you calculate over the whole year. Then you will arrive at the whole year how much the inflation has been. Then it will be correlated with the measurement given by this CPI and WPI. That is why they are regularly used. How frequently is CPI given? It is released monthly. By whom? Central Statistical Office, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So these are the facts. Essentially, if there need to be questions on any facts, they will be this. Who releases CPI? Who releases WPI? So it is Central Statistical Office, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. That is, CPI is released by CSO. Then what are the types of CPI? CPI is calculated in various sectors, like say urban CPI, rural CPI, agricultural laborers, okay, rural laborers. So CPI has different kinds of types. So different types are collected by different departments, like agricultural laborers, rural laborers will be done by the Labour Bureau of India. So it is in Ministry of Labour and Employment. Then urban, rural, it uses even postal department for the collection of information for CPI. But ultimately it is released by many of these are released by CSO, but only specific like agricultural laborers, urban workers, what does it say? Industrial workers. That is one of the important segments, because CPI industrial workers itself is the benchmark for increasing our deciding on the DA. So that when the government increases the DA, it is based on CPI industrial workers, then agricultural laborers, only rural laborers, then urban population, rural population, then combined. This is a like combined CPI. So the CPI combined, okay, it is nothing but the headline inflation. Okay, so this is one type of inflation that we had not covered, but this will emerge here because this is called headline inflation. It is used as a benchmark by RBI for its monetary policy. So that is nothing but CPI combined. It means the total population. It will take the basket of that total population, and in these baskets it will calculate the prices or the prices paid by the separate sections of the society, like rural laborers, agricultural laborers, industrial workers, and everyone, how much they had spent or how much is their expenditure on that fixed basket of goods. The CPI combined, it is the total prices that people have expenditure of people or the public are spent, they have spent in the particular period for that basket of goods. The CPI combined is nothing but it is the total inflation, or it is called headline inflation, and it is the benchmark for RBI monetary policy. That is CPI combined. Next, any other facts related to CPI is There used to be consumer food price index is also released, consumer food price index. And what is the weightage of food in CPI? Weightage of food and food articles is greater than it is almost 45 to 50%. This is very important. So in the CPI, the weightage of food and food articles is 45 to 50%. This is very important, and this leads to one concept called the divergence between WPI and CPI. What they do is they seem to converge at one point, but they keep diverging after that, because the share of food articles or the weightage of food in CPI is more, very much more. It's almost 50%, while in WPI it is only 25%. This is what I had told in the weightage of food. Because of weightage of food, what will happen? The food is the one that actually food articles and the primary articles, agricultural produce is the major segment in the economy that actually faces the supply shocks. So when the cost of production increases, the prices increase in WPI. So factory gate, because the factory gate prices are more, the market price process or the retail prices also will increase. So because of the weightage of increase in food, CPI will have more number than WPI. WPI may be increasing at a slower pace, but CPI will gallop. It will probably jump because of this. So there will be a divergence in the rate of increase in the inflations between WPI and CPI because of share of food articles. So what essentially happens is when in the factory gate the WPI is being taken, the articles move and reach the market, then here the retail prices are captured, and then generally it is released, both are released with a 6 weeks lag. It means we generally get the inflation rates of around exactly 1.5 months ago. That is what you could capture, but in deflator we may have to wait till half year or 1 year. So it is very difficult. So with 6 weeks lag, the indices are released. So what they will do is, this is 6 weeks lag between WPI and CPI. No, this is 6 weeks lag between the both WPI CPI. There will be 6 weeks lag in the prices that have come. And this gap, like factory gate to market price, when the products move from here to here, it will be between 2 to 3 months. So what happens is WPI actually gives a insight into what CPI is going to be like. If WPI is increasing, means the factory gate prices itself are increasing, then add them with indirect taxes, then CPI will naturally increase. But because of the weightage in the CPI, it will increase more. So they will keep focusing on this. Earlier we used to focus on WPI, now the headline inflation is CPI for monetary policy. So what happened recently was in May, when the data for March month was released. When would it be released? It will be released on May 15th or May 20th max, with 6 weeks lag. So within 3 or 4 days, the Monetary Policy Review Committee of RBI had met and increased the interest rates by 40 basis points, means 0.4%. So why? They came to know that the inflation in March was even more greater than in February, and for beyond 3 months it is out of the target. So what is that and everything we will look in the targeting chapter just after this. So this is the significance of this. So when immediately the March figures came, then no, there is no time for it. So it was an unscheduled monetary policy committee. What and everything we'll see. So that is what happens, and this is the gap between WPI and CPI. Means the time taken by the products to come from the factory gates to the retail markets, into the shops, into the market. So this is like a head start. WPI will give insights into CPI. So there may be situation like WPI is increasing and CPI is also increasing. This is one scenario. So this may be a part of this curve. So after this what, WPI will be decreasing, but CPI will be still here. So even this case may arise in our economy. So you can guess questions based on these kind of scenarios. So if they ask which of the following is a possible scenario regarding WPI and CPI. So based on this little concept, you can answer that question. So this is a little fact into it, beyond which you can expect questions also based on facts. This is CPI. What are the CPI figures for the recent times? So the past 3-4 months it has been increasing, and last year it had touched 4.8. 1920 it was 4.8%. Then 2021 it had already crossed 5.6% or 8%. Then now it is running beyond 6% already more than few months. So what is that 6% and significance? We'll see in the target of inflation. So this is about CPI. There are little differences between CPI and WPI, based on which you may expect a question. So we'll just briefly cover the same. WPI versus CPI. As we already know, WPI covers only goods, not services, while CPI covers both goods and services. This we already know, the basic difference. Next, average prices of bulk sale of commodities in first stage of transaction. This is the first stage of transaction that WPI captures, and CPI is beyond that. That is retail, after indirect taxes are added. Next, weightage of food, that we have already seen. This is 25% and this is 50%, and it leads to divergence. Try to remember these concepts and have a good revision. It will help you have good understanding. CPI actually includes even services like housing, education, means how much people are spending on housing, education, medical, health and other things in their daily consumption expenditure. That is captured by CPI. WPI essentially captures what? It captures the manufacturing inputs, whether imports are getting costlier, whether raw materials are getting costlier, whether the costs of production are getting costlier. That is what WPI gives, the manufacturing inputs on goods and intermediary goods. Intermediary goods are the goods which are further used as raw materials for further value addition or processing. That is intermediary goods. So it gives an insights on the supply side. This is on the demand side. What are services are also included, like how much people are spending on their housing, how much people are spending on education, medical, health and other aspects also. So it is a more comprehensive on the demand side, or the total indirect taxes also included. Yeah, the spillover effect, that is WPI increase will spill over to the CPI with a certain time lag, that is the time taken between the goods to reach from factory gate to the retail markets. That is a time lag. It could be 1 month or it could be 10 days, it could be 2 months, anything, but there will be with a little lag, these effects will spill over. It's called spillover effect. It's common to both of them. WPI is computed using arithmetic mean. Arithmetic mean means in this whole basket they will take the prices of all the ones, and like P1 plus P2 plus Pn divided by n they will take. This is arithmetic mean. It is a small concept in maths. We would have learnt in school obviously, so this is one. But in CPI what they will do is they will do the geometric mean. It means P1 into P2 into P3 nth root of up to Pn. This is geometric mean. So these are the differences based on how they are calculated, what they calculate, and what are the concepts that emerge between these two, the dynamics between WPI and CPI. But the common things are the calculation method, basket, items, then spillover effect, that is this will increase, then after a time lag this will also increase. and both CPI and WPI are released with a time lag of 6 weeks. There will be 6 weeks lag behind the actual price rise and the capturing of it. Actually, what happens in the economy is, it is a very dynamic thing. It will keep moving. As we are talking now, people are buying, prices are increasing. But what we'll do is, we'll take a snapshot of that time and we'll study the phenomena. This is what happens even with the WPI and CPI. So that is how they are measured. Then compared against a base year or a base period. Then arriving at what is the inflation in the economy. This is how it is measured. The measurement of inflation. Third method, as we have seen, is the GDP deflator. It is the third measurement of inflation, but it is something that arrives with a time lag of almost a financial year. So it cannot be a comprehensive measure, because inflation is something that if you don't have a check on it, it will have very, very, very long-term effects into an economy, as we had seen in hyperinflation or stagflation or any other such phenomena. So it is very, very essential to have a control over it, and it should be in the manageable levels to the size of the economy, situation of the economy. We have so many structural defects in our economy. So if you wait for 1 year to arrive at this, then by the time the destruction may have already happened. So GDP deflator is most comprehensive measure, but it has more time lag. That is why the most widely used is CPI and WPI. Among both of them, CPI, it is the headline inflation. And while we discuss headline inflation, there is only one type of inflation that is we are left with now, because we read headline inflation. You see what is core inflation. This is the last type of inflation. So there are totally 11 types of inflation. This is 10th. 9 we had covered. This is 11th. So what is core inflation? It is headline inflation minus the prices of the volatile goods and services. What is volatile? Volatile is, if you pour a drop of petrol or kerosene on your hand, it evaporates immediately. That is volatility. So the prices are so volatile that they'll keep fluctuating more. They may increase, they may decrease drastically, then again they increase. They keep increasing only sometimes. So what are those? Like food, fuel, vagaries. Food, why? Because if there is a drought, if there is a transport problem, if there is infrastructure issues, connectivity, supply chain management, the prices will increase. Then fuel, if the barrel price increases in the international market, it will be transmitted down till public, the fuel prices will increase. So these are volatile goods and services. They will be removed from the headline inflation, that is this. Then you arrive at the core inflation. Core inflation is what? It will look at the goods that are having slow increase, steady increase, but over a period of time, 10-20 years, they will also increase in price in a significant manner. So that is what it is measured. The core, not the volatile ones, where because of structural defects, because of the vagaries in the international markets, the prices are falling and rising, they will be removed. Means for the certain matters. So if the core inflation is rising, for example, so if the core inflation is rising, yes, then economy is heading into a very heavy headline inflation. So it should brace for a impact. So that is the significance of core inflation. They will remove the goods with volatility prices, price destabilization. They will remove those, and usually the prices of goods and services which are stable will be taken. If such goods and services are increasing in price, then it means some phenomena is happening behind. So the RBI will get into working on it. That is the significance of core inflation. This is headline inflation, that is total, that is CPI combined. So totally we have 11 types of inflation. So this is over. Now, as we had seen, the measurement is over, the GDP deflator. Next, we will be getting into the targeting of inflation. Why is targeting of inflation important? Because of the consequences of inflation. Let us cover this off. Consequences of inflation. What are the results of inflation or the outcomes of inflation? First, on value of money. Two, on borrowers and lenders. That is the two major people who buy and sell. Next, on individuals. That is the common man or the public. So what does inflation do to the value of money? It corrodes the value of money. We are not saying it will remove, it will eliminate, it will clear. We are using the word corrode. What is corrosion or what is corroding? Corroding is a process that goes on for a long period of time. But over a period of time, it would have removed an essential amount of surface or material from over a rock or anything, any place. So what it does to the value of money is it corrodes. So what is the example of corroding the value of money? I'll tell you. In 1980, if you had 100 rupees in the pocket, what are all the things that you would have purchased, or what are all the services that you would have spent on? The same amount of 100 rupees today after 40 years. What is the value of 100 rupees and how many goods and services you can afford to buy with them? So what essentially happened? 100 rupees started losing the value because of inflation. But it happened over a long period of time. It didn't happen overnight. But if the same phenomena happens overnight, it would be hyperinflation and it would be Zimbabwe. But this is something that happened over 40 years. This is called corroding the value of money. Even in this 40 years, even if you take out some percentage as like this much value 100 rupees had lost, if you make it divided by 40, then every year it would be doing at least 0.5% or 0.6% or 1% of decrease in the value for money. And over 40 years, it would have lost some 200% or 300%. If you calculate for a fixed basket of goods and services, then you will arrive at that percentage also. So this is the corroding of value of money. So if this increases very sharply, then value of the money will lose very sharply. There will be no delay and there is no limit to it. How much this can increase, inflation, and how much this value can fall down. There is no limit to both of them. They are both unlimited concepts. So this is the first consequence of inflation, that it corrodes the value of money. So if you don't want the 100 rupees to lose its value so fast, you will have to work on controlling the inflation in the manageable levels for your economy. This is the first one. Second one is on borrowers and lenders, that is buyers and sellers. Say in financial market, that is like banks. They lend money and people take loans, that is they borrow. So what is the effect of inflation on these two? Say for example, a bank has given 10 crore rupees to a people or some company through a loan and they are paying interest for it. And it has given time period of 10 years or say 15 years for the repayment. So over this time, the 10 crores would have lost its value in 10-15 years by some whatever amount, and it would have become some 8.2 crores. So even with the interest added and everything, it will become beneficial to the borrower if there is inflation. Because the value of the money will keep decreasing, the total money he repays will actually be lesser because the money is losing the value. Interest he will be paying. So interest is the cost of getting that funds. That we are not calculating here. We are only concerned about the value that he would be repaying. And what is with these banks? Banks are essentially getting only this much from him after, by the time he completes this 10-15 years. Banks are not even getting 10 crore because the value is corroded. So banks will be at the loss, means the lenders are at loss. Borrowers are going to gain. So who are the lenders? The banks, the RBI, the government. So if they keep going into the losses like this and people will keep getting beneficial, it would be a very difficult situation to run an economy. That is why it is essential to target the inflation. That is the second reason. Third one is on individuals. This topic doesn't need any specific introduction or anything because this is everybody's story. It's true. This is everybody's story because for people who maybe have been well off or above average, middle class, above upper middle class, lower middle class and everything, but for the people who are living along BPL, the poverty line, who are living along the poverty line, this inflation can make them go above it or fall below them, like with its vagaries. It will impact a lot and it will create a lot of inequalities and everything. So it needs to be curbed or it needs to be controlled at least. Why this happens is when the growth doesn't trickle down to development. So what is growth, what is development and everything we'll see in the upcoming chapters in economic development. Remember that growth is the numbers, that is the growth of economy, what is the size of economy, how much it has grown. Development is how much the benefits are going to the public, how many people are getting educated, how many people are getting drinking water, how many people are getting health facilities access, how many people are able to live above the whatever 69 years, 70 years, what we say, life expectancy. That is life expectancy. So it is the trickle down effects of the growth into the society, that is development. So people or the whole mass or the whole middle class, they'll keep working more for money that is actually losing value if inflation is rising. So how much ever you keep earning that value money and keep spending more and more without creating value, if you don't create value, inflation will keep rising. As we had discussed, the mask prices will increase to 1,000, 10,000, not because they are valued at or not because it took them to manufacture 9,000 rupees for that mask, because it is only for artificial demand. That is inflation. That is like a balloon or a bubble. So that is what it is. This impacts on individuals. So it is the duty of the governments, it is the responsibility of the central banks to run economies or to run their monetary policies based on keeping all the consequences of inflation in mind. That is why it became essential to target the inflation. So in order to target inflation, what was done is RBI, generally the central bank of an economy, will work on its monetary policy to control inflation and everything. What is monetary policy of India and what is the Central Bank of India? That is RBI. So RBI manages or targets the inflation. It is not a recent phenomena, and since the time it had been a central bank, RBI is doing it. That is when it was nationalized in 1949. Since then RBI had been working on inflation. But the recent developments and the recent ones is that a monetary policy framework agreement what do you call it? Monetary policy framework agreement. Let's call it MPFA. So when was this signed? The monetary policy framework agreement was signed in February 2015 between Government of India and RBI, the Reserve Bank of India. So what is written in monetary policy framework agreement? It is written that RBI is now statutorily or legally or statutorily responsible to do what? To meet the objective of price stabilization in the economy. It is nothing but controlling inflation only. But the objective is cited as what? The price stabilization. That is the key objective of the monetary policy, and RBI is legally or statutorily responsible. It means what? They will decide a target range for inflation, and if the target is not met for consequently for 3 or more months, RBI should give in writing to the Government of India as to why it couldn't control the inflation and what measures it will take to further control the inflation. That is what when they say legally or statutorily responsible, when RBI is legally or statutorily responsible. So what was done was the RBI Act 1934, the act based on which RBI was established, was amended by the monetary policy framework agreement, and RBI was legally made responsible to control the inflation through its monetary policy. So the key objective of that monetary policy is what? The price stabilization. And who will do that? RBI. That is the concept behind targeting of inflation. So the monetary policy framework will be operated by RBI, and the target range is fixed at 4% plus or minus 2%. It means, what does it mean? 4% plus or minus 2% means 4 minus 2, 2% to 4 plus 2, 6%. So this is the target range for inflation that was fixed by the first monetary policy framework, and it was fixed in 2016 and it is valid for 5 years. So last year or this year only, the inflation rate was again given in Gazette by government. Means this target will be given by the government and it should be achieved by the RBI. That is the framework agreement. So for every 5 years, government will give in Gazette, this is the target range I will give you. Then RBI should work its monetary policy and its everything on meeting that target. And if they don't meet the target, then they should answer to the government as to why they could not control or keep it in such a target range. Recently, the Gazette notification is given for new target range and it is the same. It is the same target range within which we want to keep the inflation and keep our economy expanding. If that is more, what will happen? The real GDP will be what? It will be less, because the prices now are more and compared to the base year. So what will happen? The real GDP will be very less, while the nominal GDP may be very, very more. Means if you put your money in the bank, say suppose you put 10 crore in the bank and bank says I'll pay you 10% interest, but the inflation has risen by 6% in that year, then you are actually only earning 4% in the real time. This is the concept of nominal and real. So this will be your nominal income 10%, but if inflation is rising at 6%, your real income is only 4%. So this is what inflation does to the value of money in the real time. If these rates are less already, the banks are already giving lesser rates of interest, then inflation should be less. If inflation keeps rising, then these interest rates will keep moving up. But the difference, the real time value or the real income that you get will be becoming less if the inflation is rising. So now they want to, that's why keep it in within this range only. Means if our economy is now growing at, say, suppose they say 11.3%, you go and see if that 11.3% is nominal GDP or real GDP. So it would be most probably nominal GDP. So what will you have to remove from this? 11.3 minus, in 1920 it was 4.8%. Now it is around 5.7%. So remove 5.7% from this. So that will be your real GDP growth. Not 11.3% nominal GDP growth, because inflation is rising at 6%. So this is the concept behind the same. And this target range is fixed by Government of India, that is Ministry of Finance will give. Then RBI will have to meet that objective. This is the agreement that is made between Government of India and RBI. So a monetary policy committee will be formed. The monetary policy committee is a committee of 6 members. 3 from RBI plus 3 from government, the representatives of Government of India. Who are they? The governor, the deputy governor, in charge of monetary policy. So how many deputy governors are there in RBI board? 4. So the one who is in charge of monetary policy will be the member. Third one is the one nominated by RBI board, or an RBI official nominated by RBI board. Next, 3 Government of India are representatives of Government of India who are selected by a selection committee. The selection committee consists of Cabinet Secretary, RBI Governor himself, next Secretary, DEA, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and 3 experts in banking and economy that are nominated by Government of India. Means, remember, representatives means that are formed by a committee. Nominated means we will say these 3 people will go. That is nomination. There won't be any voting or there won't be a committee to decide on that. But to decide these representatives, there is a selection committee. So in that committee, there we have 3 experts from banking and economy who are nominated by Government of India. Look at the difference. Don't get confused. Okay. So these are the 3 people. They have a tenure of 4 years, and it is not reappointment. The reappointment, they are not eligible for reappointment after 4-year term. They will not get an extension or a reappointment. So who chairs the monetary policy committee? Obviously the RBI governor. So because there are 3 people and 3 people, if they go for a monetary policy committee review and they want to go for voting, and there are 3-3, if the votes are 3-3, the quorum is what? The minimum number should be present along with the chairperson for the meeting to go or the committee to take decisions. That is quorum. So at least there should be 4 members and chairperson should be there. And if all the 6 people are present and there is like 3-3 situation, 3 people say yes, 3 people say no. So RBI governor will have a casting vote in case of a tie. If there is a tie, if there are 4 people and there is 2-2, the governor will have a casting vote. If there are 6 people and it will be 3-3, the governor will have a casting vote. So this is the composition of and what is the monetary policy constituted of.